Yeah, hello everybody, and welcome to today's online session in the context of the certificate program in Python for Algorithmic Trading. This is intended to be an introduction and overview session, so it won't be too long, but I think we will have a program for something like 60 minutes. I've prepared a couple of examples, so it's not just about showing you slides. It's also about giving you a glimpse at what you can expect from our program. You'll find the slides that I'm using here under the link that you see, but I have also posted the link in the chat session of the GoToWebinar panel, so you should be able to click simply on the link there and download it, but be warned, it's a larger file, many pictures in there, so it has something like 15 megabytes or even a little bit more. You can follow along here on the screen, or you can download it at the same time and follow along at your local machine. Yeah, without further ado, I think we should jump right into today's session. Again, it's about an introduction. It gives a little bit of background, and in particular, and this will be the main point, giving an overview of what you can expect from our actually brand new certificate program in Python for Algorithmic Trading, which we have organized in cooperation with the German university HTW Saar. Let me start here with my presentation. The first part is about the introduction, a little bit of background information about our company, about myself. Many of you might know me already, but I think it's worthwhile to have this as a starting point to level the playing field here. So this is the first overview of what we do at the Python Quants. You see in the lower right part, and this will be the case mostly throughout these slides, that there is a link provided. So if you follow this link to TPQ.io, you land at our main page for the Python Quants. And here in this infographic, you see what we are doing mainly. All is centered around Python for finance and algorithmic trading. And in this context, we do events. You see in the upper right-hand part for Python Quants and algorithmic trading. We do this already since years. There are events that are commercially organized, ready to pay a fee, but there are also many events, for example, our London meetup crew, Python for Quantitative Finance, which are completely free, and this is due majorly due to the sponsors that we have in this part. Then you see here the certification part in cooperation with our German university here in the Saarland area. This is what this is today all about. And I'm really happy that we are the first to launch such a certificate in Python for algorithmic trading. Most parts of the certification program are based on books that I've written, some of them or most of them published, like my Python for Finance book. You will see it later on. But I've also written proprietary content for the different classes. Python for Algorithmic Trading is one. The other one is Finance with Python that you cannot buy at Amazon, for example, where you get here access to kind of proprietary unique content. Open source is what this is all about when we talk about Python. This is what is at our core, but of course we use many other open source libraries and technologies there as well. From the proactive side, we are also maintaining and providing support for the library that is called DX Analytics. So it's not only that we are consumers, so to say, on the open source end, we've also published I'd say a rather sophisticated derivatives analytics library. Again, DX Analytics, completely free, as it's kind of the standard in the open source world. Then we run the platform. You would see the platform in detail for browser-based data analytics. We now have there around 10,000 users. So our niche, Python for Quant Finance and algorithmic trading, is growing and growing, and I'm really happy about that. Training is the other part here, what today's session is all about. So the focus here, obviously, again, on Python for Finance and algorithmic trading, and in particular today here on algorithmic trading. Services, this is what we have grown up with, services for financial institutions globally. So we have worked with, I think, financial institutions from every continent around the world, with a focus, obviously, close to the financial centers like London, New York, and also in Frankfurt here in Germany. I mentioned the platform before, the second infographic here, again, accompanied by a link, pqp.io in this case. This illustrates now what the platform is all about. Again, you would see it in action later on during my presentation here. And what we intended to do is kind of, to provide you with an environment where you can start with an idea, a financial idea, or maybe something that is just a data center. It doesn't have to be necessarily financial. So the tools and the things that we provide there, they are not all specifically dedicated to the finance area. They can be beneficially applied also to other areas in this regard. So from idea to application here is kind of the guiding principle. Once you start with the idea, you do some interactive financial analytics. You might translate this into proper application. You get training from us where you learn how to implement your ideas. Also services, you saw it before, but currently we are here in the training part. When you work on the platform, you have multiple options to do visualization. You will also see a couple of examples there. Analysis is at the core when you see it down here. So browser-based data science is now the keyword here. And last but not least, publication as well. So you want to collaborate with others within a team in a company or at your department at the university, or just share it with the general public. You have all these options on the platform. Also to work with proprietary as well as open data sources. So it's kind of a full-fledged environment where we rely mainly, and you see it here in the middle, on standard tools like Jupyter and many, many others. So we don't reinvent the wheel. We just add a few little things that might be useful, like file management capabilities and a couple of such things more. But in the end, it's again about open source and the nice tools that there are out there already in our ecosystem. There's a question with regard to the prerequisites, but we will come to that later on when I show you the very basics. And I hope that indirectly, at least, the question about the prerequisites and how to best get started will be answered there. So if you haven't seen myself, this is myself in action. I think this was at the London conference. You see kind of hash codes in the background. This was, as far as I remember, a talk about blockchain and encryption and hashing codes. So I'm just, I don't want to put just my picture here. It's more or less about the third source that I want to point you to here, hilpisch.com, because all my talks, and I think there might be maybe beyond 100 with slides, GitHub repositories, gists, and so forth. So quite a few resources can be found on my private page, hilpisch.com. So if you're interested in Python for finance, this is also a good source to get started. Here you see my 3 books. The middle one, most probably the most successful, Python for Finance from O'Reilly. Parts of our program here, our certificate program in Python for Algorithmic Trading, are based on this book as well. We have another focus area, which is computational and quantitative finance. And these are the areas then where we apply the methods illustrated in the 2 Wiley books. In particular, the one on the left-hand side here, derivatives analytics with Python, which is also selling pretty well for such a, in this case, mathematically and computationally demanding topic as derivatives analytics. A couple of things will be illustrated later on from Python for Finance. Here you see the brochure for our university certificate program. It is brand new. It will start officially in the next week for the first time. So I'm really happy that we have already that many people signed up for the first batch. So I'm really looking forward to it because we have exciting times. And what this means, or what I mean by exciting times, will be illustrated later on when we talk about things like the singularity or financial singularities that we might expect in the near future. It is really, really kind of exciting what is now happening, and just just if you have a look at the most recent announcement, for example, by Google with regard to Google AI and the tensor processing units and so forth, it's kind of amazing how fast companies and other institutions are progressing in this regard these days. Here you see a screenshot of our currently most popular course. It's about Python for algorithmic trading. It's at the core of what we do here in a certificate program. That's the reason why I have included it here. So you have seen kind of my 3 books. The O'Reilly book with is, I think, the thickest one with 600 plus pages. But here you have in principle another book which hasn't been published, but this stands now at 450 pages as a PDF version as well. So at the core of our program is kind of a very comprehensive treatment of Python for algorithmic trading, covering such things as you see here, like the interactive brokers trading platform, as well as cryptocurrency trading, or as I will illustrate later on, CFD trading in real time, algorithmically based on the Kuan platform. So this is really at the core of the program. And again, it stands currently at 450 pages. Just yesterday, I updated it to accommodate recent changes with regard to data APIs. So it's growing, and I personally am really enjoying the fact that we have here an online product only, in the sense that I can update the content whenever there is something new. I just, even this week, read on Amazon that somebody pointed out that the Python for Finance code is a little bit dated. Yeah, the book is from December 2014. Many, many amazing things have happened since then. I try my best to keep the code at least updated on the GitHub repository. But of course, the printed version is still the printed version. There's no second edition out there. So with the printed version, you always have kind of the little problem that there might be new things coming out, API changes, others that might be replaced by new stuff and so forth. So here I'm really enjoying the fact that I spot something, people point me to something, I can update it, and you have the benefit. So we send out an email like we did yesterday to a couple of hundred people and said, well, now there's new content, please update your repository on the Kuan platform. For us in these exciting and fast changing times, it's really exciting to have these means available. So I was a little bit quick here. Let me go to that one. A little bit of self-marketing. I'm happy that we have been selected to be a top 10 banking analytics solution provider by the Banking CIO Outlook magazine. It's not just to say that we are happy as a company. I see it more in the context of that Python has finally arrived. So when we started using Python for Finance more than 10 years ago, everybody was saying, well, this is nothing for banks. This is nothing for finance, and it's for sure nothing for computationally demanding things like derivatives analytics. And so many things have changed. Now we have a very powerful open source library out there, DX Analytics. It is used by the biggest banks in the world for the most comprehensive and computationally demanding tasks out there, particular risk management and so forth. So Python has arrived, and I see this a little bit kind of, sometimes that we can be happy about the results. We are not mainly responsible for that, but we have been part of this movement, and I'm always happy to see that so many institutions out there are using Python now for their involved financial analytics tasks. That's the main reason why I've put it in here. So again, I was a little bit quick because this is a very important task here, or slide, I must say, slide with a couple of our partners. I'm really happy that we can work with strong partners, because what we do, and you have seen, it's quite a lot. Although we focus on our core is on Python for Finance, we do quite a lot. So international events, for example. I mentioned our meetup group in London, and thanks to Thomson Reuters, we can host meetups with 100 people plus that we usually have there. Our meetup group has grown to 2,000 plus people as of today. It's kind of amazing. With Fitch Learning and the CQF Institute, we do all for Python Quants Bootcamp, which is done once a year in London and once a year in New York. So since a couple of years already, really happy to have that partner. And last but not least here, HTWSAR, which is our German university with a focus on business and engineering. And these are the partners for the certificate. that we do here. There is just a question in this context, so it might make sense to answer it here. Yeah, okay, there's a question with regard to the ECTS points. So if you happen to live in Europe, or at least to study in Europe for a master, the certificate is even worth 5 ECTS points, European Credit Transfer System points, which means that if you're in a university where you're doing a master program, allows you to take our 5 points and use them for your master studies, you have an additional benefit. This might not be interesting or important for people from Asia or the US, people studying there or other continents, but for those in Europe, this might be a nice additional benefit. So it's indeed for the accreditation on the one hand side, and on the other hand side that we can award these 5 ECTS points. Yeah, it's a good question in this context. There are now kind of technical questions here. We might revisit them later on without going into details here at this point. The other general question which I might answer here now is that we will, of course, I'm recording this session, and this will be put on the Kuan platform as well as on YouTube, probably this first seminar. All the others, obviously not, but this is anyways free and open, so we'll put this on YouTube as well. The overview of the program. So the first, what I usually start with is what are the megatrends that influence our field these days? And I've structured these into 4 different areas. The first is software. It's about open source software, which started more or less all the other trends. That's my opinion, at least. Then about hardware, where we have today open infrastructure, which is easily scalable, and you pay it usually only by the hour, or with a flat fee when you think of a cloud-based things like Dropbox, for example. Then data, for me, this is another major breakthrough which facilitated kind of other developments in our field, open data. And last but not least, open networks, where people can get together in the form of meetups in a structured way, but nevertheless in an informal way, and to exchange ideas, to give talks, to learn from others. When in recent times, it was just kind of your colleague on the same floor, maybe 2-3 doors further, with whom you talk to or with whom you shared lunch in the recent past. Now you can meet people from other companies, other areas, even other industries, and exchange ideas. This was more or less the first row I was going through. But now we see kind of specialization in all areas. So when it gets to software, it's not only that we have a little bit of open source, which is maybe 10% of the professional stuff. Now we these days typically have cutting edge software in the form of TensorFlow, for example, when it gets to deep learning, when Google open source TensorFlow, kind of an amazing step there. But it's not only that Google has open source TensorFlow, they are now working to provide specialized hardware to speed up deep learning efforts in this regard. So Google AI just recently announced, and if you go to the PDF, there are links behind every single logo that you see. There are links so you can follow them. I won't do it here at this point, at least. We then have programmatic APIs. Open data is nice if you have access to, let's say, a CSV file, for example. This is nice, but to retrieve it via a RESTful API from Quandl, for example, this is kind of elegant. This is kind of what we want to have. We just say, well, now let's have a look at Amazon stock price data instead of Apple stock price data. And we don't need to really take care where it comes from. We just need to connect to an API which provides us access to, let's say, the whole universe. I mean, this is just a theoretical, abstract idea that we get access to the whole universe, but when we, for free, would rather qualify. But if we think of the just recently, and I will have an example here, launched beta program for the Thomson Reuters Icon API, then we have access to almost a complete universe. At least to a benchmark universe, if you like, and you will see what this means. It's not just kind of end of day data nicely packaged, even down to the tick data level, you get access there to the data, and specialized events. Beyond the standard open source conferences, meetups like the PyCons, we now have, for example, ours for Python Quants, or you have from Quantopian, you have the QuantCon. So we now have specialized events. So first, you have seen that the industry in all these areas has gone open source, open infrastructure, open data, open networks. Then there came the specialization where we now are kind of not only competing, sometimes even leading the development compared to the commercial software side of things. So amazing what has happened here over the last couple of years. And this is the background against which we have designed the program, our certificate program. The next slide brings me to one of the major topics here, that in principle, when you have a look at what algorithmic trading is about, it's just kind of this box down here, gray box, and what machine and deep learning is all about is kind of one of the fanciest things we have in the industry. It's more or less the same. So first, it all starts typically with data, algorithms, hardware. So you have kind of the infrastructure. The next step, this is the major work, if you like, is to do some optimization. So simple case, linear algebra used for ordinarily squares regression. You do an optimization there, or you train your models, or you learn your network. Then you test what you have done, you validate your results, and now we have a little bit of a differentiation, but in the end, algorithmic trading is just, if you like, a specialization of what we see up here. So here, prediction, I'm using kind of as a general placeholder. Of course, when we talk about automation, this can mean many things. This can mean kind of an automated recommendation of what I might like in terms of music when I listen to Spotify music. Or this might mean automation that we have driverless cars. Same structure, but completely different outcome. Or this might mean that you have machines that play computer games, or whatever comes to mind. There's so many examples out there. And in this sense, trading is nothing different. That we say, well, we have data, we have algorithms, hardware, we come up with ideas, we do optimization, we train, we learn, we test, we validate. And then it's all about automating the trading part as compared to discretionary trading by human traders. So in that sense, machine and deep learning compared to algorithmic trading, there are not that many differences. I'd rather say there are more similarities than there are differences when you have a look at these two disciplines from that particular point of view. The major topics that we cover in our program are four. The first is, of course, the Python word. It's called Python for algorithmic trading. So we cover Python, the tools that you use, IPython, Jupyter, Docker container, for example, cloud instances, basic idioms, control. So it's kind of the basic, it's a language that you need. And then you have all the nice packages in the form, for example, of TensorFlow, to do financial data science, to work with historical financial data, to implement machine learning tasks like classification. Stock market prediction is kind of a typical classification problem. Does the market go up tomorrow, or will it probably go down? This is a classification problem. We can apply deep learning to this end to implement a prediction algorithm. We do the backtesting and so forth. So this is then about the data science. Last but not least, of course, you want to trade and you need the platforms. In order to trade in real time, you need to be able to work with streaming data, to do a real-time visualization. You need, instead of kind of static algorithms working on complete data sets, you need real-time online algorithm. An online algorithm is one that is defined by the fact that the data is growing and changing over time in real time. You need to do real-time communication, so placing orders, for example. And in this part, in this particular area, you learn how to master the communication and the working with the platforms. And maybe the most important part is the final one here, where I have put the certificate symbol in here. It's the do-it-yourself part. The one thing is kind of to read a book about swimming. The other one is to jump in the swimming pool and to start doing it on your own. And this is what we now try for the first time to do much more extensively than ever before with this program, where we say you should develop your own strategies, do the backtesting. You shall be able to implement your own trading code, to maybe customize code. It's like usual. You start with customization, then you do your own thing. We will have a one-day trading competition, a backtesting competition where everybody will backtest the strategy on the same data set. We will have a full week experience. People were asking me, well, do I need to take a week off? No, it's about automated algorithmic trading. So I hope that you might monitor it here and then, but it should be an automated algorithmic trading exercise that you do there. Last but not least, in order to get the certificate awarded, you need to complete a complete research project, which is can be considered like a final exam. It's not exam style. You're supposed to hand in something like a Jupyter notebook, which completely documents a certain project, where the topic can be decided upon kind of in exchange with myself. Again, a little bit too fast. When I push here the space key, it goes 2 slides, so I must use the arrow keys. So here now on this slide, you see the overview of the program. We have basically 4 different areas, and they are more or less reflected by what we have seen before. Here is a little bit more structure to it, and when you see the red points, this means that you will see a very quick demonstration afterwards. The first thing is here that we have an introduction, of course, of which this session today is part of. Then an introduction to the Kuan Platform, which is a central tool that we're going to use. You will learn to set up your own Python environments and infrastructure. So we don't want to kind of bind you or only provide you with knowledge with regard to the Kuan Platform. No, to the contrary, we want to put you in a position that you can set up any type of Python environment that you need for your own projects. You also learn, and this is kind of new and relates to the question which was raised before, how to start if there is no programming background, how to start if the finance knowledge might be a little bit rusty. And that's the reason why we have these 2 blocks there, basic finance and complete economies and basic finance and incomplete ones. So we have a very new offering. It's called Finance with Python. And this is a gentle introduction to the 2 topics, both finance and Python. And it's a very good introduction for those who have still very good working knowledge of finance and know already quite a bit about Python. It might be a little bit too slow. Maybe a refresher for a short weekend review, but we have intentionally added because many people have asked us for that. Then we have the data science column, if you like, here, the second part, where we cover core packages in detail, where financial time series management is a core point, where we cover topics like stochastics and statistics, and also some special and advanced topics like symbolic mathematics. So if you have the need to calculate derivatives or to evaluate numerical integrals, this is then the place where you find solutions to that. The algo trading part is at the core here, the third column. See financial data, backtesting, prediction, then streaming data and visualization, more or less the requirements that we have read before are addressed here. Then the 3 online platforms that we cover, Wanda, Interactive Brokers, and Gemini. And then also the automation of algorithmic trading operations in the end. Now there might be the point to revisit the question here with regard to order flow imbalance, pump and dump detection, or level 2 data analysis. We don't go into too many details with regard to market microstructure in this regard. Our focus indeed is on the Python side of things. I think the tools that we provide in the program, they put you in a position that you can address those or similar issues afterwards with the tools that you acquire during the certificate program. I mean, you could, in principle, structure a complete master program about the topics that we have here. So we try to do our best to teach as many topics as possible in as much detail as possible over the course of 8 to 10 weeks, plus then the competition plus the final project work. So over 3 months, you should get exposure to many things, but of course you won't get exposure to every single important detail out there. But now speaking of experience, you see here this complete column where we have 4 different things: out of sample backtesting competition, single day live trading competition, 1 week live trading competition, as well as final project delivered as a Jupyter Notebook. Oh, here you see the automatic correction of my keynote presentation on the MacBook has changed Jupiter with the Y to Jupiter, the planet with the I, but I think you know already what this is all about. And you see here the quote, plans are nothing, planning is everything. So we have, of course, plans, but we can still accommodate when a group of people, a group of students as well. Could you maybe include this, or this is not of particular importance? So we are flexible because we want to provide you with the best experience. Now I might do the, maybe spend kind of 50 minutes for the live exercises. And the first is about the Kuan Platform. I jump right onto the Kuan Platform. Everybody participating in the program has a respective account on the Kuan Platform, and you find different resources there. So when it gets to the trainings, I start with these resources. You see here under my training, so this might now differ if you don't have yet full access via the certificate program. You might have fewer things here activated, but when I start with the first thing, finance with Python, this is a course, and you see that now there comes the first course up here. This is the gentle introduction that I mentioned before. And you see in the left-hand side, the table of contents. This is already comprehensive, but this is a long-term project which will grow over time. And once you get access to it, you get lifetime access with all the updates out there. The second thing is Python for algorithmic trading. So here you see that a second pane opens, second tab opens. This is quite a bit more comprehensive. I pointed it out before. This is at the core of the class, and in PDF form represents something like 450 plus pages. Very comprehensive, lots of code examples, but you don't need to copy code out of here or whatsoever. Everybody on the Kuan platform, and now I jump to the upper left pane, you see here a couple of folders, gets access to the files via a Git repository. So when I open the file manager, you see here that I see the structure from the left-hand side now here. And for example, if I go to my PyAlgo Git folder, you see that there are a couple of chapters from 1 to 11, exactly the number that we have in our course. And when I click on the first here, for example, I can now click on the single file. Here's only one file, and you see that we have a Jupyter Notebook, which corresponds to chapter 01, Python Algorithmic Trading, and I can start executing that stuff here on the platform. So it's not about that I show here you how to execute these things, but just to see and to illustrate that everything that is here in the form of static content is also available as executable code files, mostly in the form of Jupyter Notebooks. So there is no Quandlen there currently, but you see that this executes as it is supposed to. So we have many more things here on the platform. You saw already in action the file manager. You see here Jupyter Notebook open, but we have also editing capabilities. When I use here the file manager and I go to another chapter, for example, here we have a couple of other files here. When I open that one, for example, you see this has nothing to do with Python. This is now a bash script which is used for certain purposes. And you see that I can edit such files here kind of conveniently on the Kuan platform as well. If you use Jupyter Notebook, you know all these functionality as well. We have just integrated it tightly into the Kuan platform. In addition, you also have shell access. So when I click on new shell here, you see that I can now do things like starting IPython on the shell and do my regular Python work if I like to do it that way here. So full access there, going to exit. And when I'm finished, for example, working on the shell, I can use yet another tool. Here you see the task manager, and you now see that 2 terminals are running. The last one I've opened was the terminal number 2, and I can shut this down. So you see that it has vanished. When I want to shut down my Jupyter Notebook, I can either do it here and that I close it, but this will not shut down the kernel, or I can do it here as well by simply shutting down the kernel. So these are already more or less the tools that you see on the left-hand side. Maybe not really a tool, but really helpful, I guess, in many circumstances, is the user forum, where you see that we have structured the user forum along the lines of our classes. So finance with Python, Python for financial data science, algorithmic trading, computational finance, also general discussions around the platform. When I go to that one, for example, you see there is a new post. Actually, it's from myself. So fix for Yahoo Finance Pandas data reader issues, and you see a couple of other things. The most active section here on the user forum is the Python for algorithmic trading, and you see that there are 9 pages here already with certain entries. So if you have a question, you are not alone. It's us that help you there for sure. We try to get back with course-related and class-related questions within 24 hours, but there are also others that help you out in this regard. So you see, it's kind of simple to work on the platform. You have the course content available, you have the codes available, but you also have things available like here in the course part where we have hosted videos. So included in the certificate program already some 55 hours of pre-recorded instruction. So where you can start right away, in addition to the live sessions that we do, usually 2 times a week, you have the videos available as well. So when I click on that, and I can then listen and watch to my own instruction here. You hear me now talking 2 times. So I don't want to let it run, but you see here, for example, in the first video, I was demoing obviously something from Icon and so forth. And you see all these videos here, roughly 3 hours, not full 3 hours, but something like 3 hours is kind of the length of the videos. And you can watch them completely self-paced, unlimited access. We don't shut down anything. So if there is kind of a 2 course or regular course of business, then you have lifetime access to all the assets that you have paid for, actually. As simple as that. So on the left-hand side, again, as a summary, you see under my trainings all the resources. We have here the tools to work on the platform. You have here kind of the Jupyter Notebook Navigator. If you want to navigate the platform with all the other files, the file manager is recommended and for some cases even required. I've shown you that you can edit files there, that you have access to the shell. So it's a full-fledged integrated environment where you find all the resources, where you can work, but you don't have to. And this is something I want to emphasize, because many people ask me, is there kind of a lock-in? And if you provide us with code examples and so forth, can we only use them on the Kuan platform? No, to the contrary. What we want to teach you is to use it on your own. And to this end, I'm going to create a droplet to show you this particular example. I'm using DigitalOcean here, something that we teach as well. And teach as well in the sense of how to set it up. I now show you quickly how this works. here you see there's not that much that I need to choose. I choose a very cheap one. So when I now do this demo, this cost me only 1.5 pence here for 1 hour when I shut it down in time before the hour passes. So very cheap for development purposes, for testing and so forth. Really excellent. I'm sitting in Germany, so the closest location for me is Frankfurt. And the only two other things is that I provide here an SSH key, and I'm choosing a host name here, maybe AlgoCert for Algorithmic Trading certification. And when I now click on create, this should take some, let's say 60 seconds. This is their value proposition. Sometimes it might take 90 seconds or 2 minutes, but I think these are kind of times that we can live with. So let us maybe wait for a few seconds. I will then initiate a little process. So here you see now I got the IP address. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean. So we can check here that everything is up and running there. IP, but I need to get back. So the droplet is created, and I can copy the IP address. And what I want to show you now is how to set it up. So I copy an install script now to the IP address. This should take not too long. It's already there. So now when I log in as a root, I'm already in there. So let me have a look. Yeah, it's there. So and now I will start a process which take a couple of minutes, and I will shift to another example and just let it run. So I took the time this morning. This might take some 3 minutes. In the meantime, I want to talk 2 or 3 minutes about the basic things that we teach. So the basic approach that we do is that we teach interactively, which means that I'm showing things that you're supposed to follow along. So here, for example, this is very simple, but nevertheless very instructive example from the Finance with Python, so the introductory course. I show you how to price a European option with a NumPy and linear algebra. So here, first I define the payoff of a stock. So I model here the stock payoff as a vector, and a vector in Python, NumPy, is an ND array object. Then the payoff of a bond. You see the bond is riskless, 11.11. The stock is risky, 25. And when we want to model the market, what we do, we put these two things into another ND array object. So SB, and I do the transpose because this is kind of nicer for us. And now we have our market structure, our market payoff matrix, 25, 11, 11. First is the stock, second is the bond. Now we can define our option. C equals NP maximum. S is the vector for the stock, the future payoff vector, minus some strike price, 15, 0. So now we have a simple linear algebra example where we want to replicate the payoff of the option by the existing traded financial assets. And this can be solved with linear algebra kind of easily. We can solve this exactly. Phi is typically what I call the portfolio. And this is here again by nplin alg. Solve, we can exactly solve M and C. And what we get as phi now is a vector which contains the number of the stock to be held in a portfolio, as well as the number here, negative number of the bond to be held, in order to replicate the payoff of an option. So what we get when we now take the dot product of M, the market payoff matrix, and phi is amazingly, the payoff of the option. And what you have seen here now in a couple of lines of code, 10 very simple lines of code, is already at the core of option pricing analytics, numerical option pricing, where we say, well, we have two traded financial assets, we have the option that we want to replicate, and what we derive here is the replication portfolio, which you can then use to price an option. If you have never heard of option pricing, and there are people in the world that got awarded for the basic ideas behind that a Nobel Prize in economics. But if you have never heard of it, here you have seen the basic idea. You have traded assets, use linear algebra to solve the replication problem, and you end up with a replication portfolio which you can use to price the option. This just as a very little example of what we teach in the introductory class. And you see this is very simple Python code, but nevertheless big finance behind it. What is behind all these ideas is called the fundamental theorem of asset pricing, and this is what is at the core of the finance with Python course. So let me now have a look at the infrastructure, because this was just an excursion during the setup. So when I now, and you see this has already installed all the things. So in my, here in my shell, I have done the installation process, and if everything runs well, I'm now copying the IP address. I should have access, and I have, to a Jupyter Notebook instance, which is now on the server. This is now on the server on the DigitalOcean Droplet. What you see here, everything that you see here, this is on my local machine. Here I'm kind of restricted by the resources that I have. Here now I'm in the cloud in Frankfurt of DigitalOcean, and instead of this very small machine for testing purposes, this machine could have 16 cores and 96 gigs of RAM and whatever kind of disk drive. Now you might say, well, what is kind of going on? Yeah, going on nothing so far, or not that much, but what I can do now, I can work on this DigitalOcean Droplet as if it would be my local machine. So for example, here in the shell, I can run htop and see if I indeed got what I booked, and I got it, a single core and also 1 gig of RAM. Kind of nice. I can also do some analytics, and I show you now the example. I'm going to upload a Jupyter Notebook, which I have prepared beforehand so that I don't need to type. I upload now a Jupyter Notebook on the Droplet, open that, and I hope that everything is installed that I need. And it seems to be. So I could import all what I need here. I can now go on and read data from Google for Amazon. So here I'm reading data for Amazon. Once I have the data in a data frame, I can plot that data. I can add a couple of statistics. Here we have simple moving averages. In the spirit of a technical analysis, you now see 2 more lines, a green one and a red one. And when you, for example, want to work with returns, you can calculate them in vectorized fashion, print them as a histogram, or you can ask kind of the typical questions. What have been the top 10 days and the worst 10 days? And this is with Python and Pandas, just 2 lines of code. So financial time series management, you see it here in the cloud. It took me, let's say, 5 minutes to get my Droplet up and running. I'm now working in a professional environment in a cloud, on a cloud infrastructure where I have installed Python, where I'm using Jupyter Notebook, and I'm executing financial time series management stuff here. So from my point of view, still impressing, because every individual, not only the big institutions, have these capabilities now at their fingertips. How this works exactly is shown in our program. Of course, here you see the code that I've used to install everything. It's some 46 lines of bash script where I've commented out a couple of things that I didn't need for the example. But what exactly is going on, once again, is shown in the course. So you have seen here the Kuan Platform, the environment and infrastructure, and already a little bit of basic finance in a complete economies context on the command line. And also my last example has been about financial time series management. If you now say, well, I want to have here for my algo trading, I want to move from open data sources like Google or Quandl or previously Yahoo, maybe they will come back, I don't know. You might want to say, well, this is all nice, but I want to work with professional data. And of course you can do that. And to this end, I have prepared a little presentation here about Icon, Python, and Plotly. What I'm using here is the beta version of the Python wrapper API for the Icon terminal, which is the general data terminal from Thomson Reuters. And I need to, and you see it here, I need to connect to the Icon proxy. So here above, you see that there is a proxy running. And this is what I'm connecting to. So this currently works more or less only locally. So I cannot demo this in the cloud, but locally it should work. And when I now go about and retrieve a little bit of data for Microsoft, I'm saying a little bit because here I'm working with end of day data. You see, oh, well, this took, I don't know, much less than a second. And I now have read from Thomson Reuters Icon terminal the data into a data frame object. And in combination with cufflinks, which is a nice plotting library, I can create with a single line of code a nice interactive graph of my data. So you see here, there are nice Hoover effects where I see kind of the date, the close, and it's also nice with a single, you see it here, a single parameter. I get, so to say, for free, a linear regression line with the equation describing the regression line. And in particular, you have this interactivity. I can also zoom in here, for example, something not possible with the standard approach. So whenever I have here in my pandas matplotlib combination, I have static bitmap graphs here. So there's no Hoover effect. I cannot zoom in. I can save that. But in principle, they are just bitmaps. Here with Icon and Plotly, this is different. So many different application scenarios. The next little case study is about the relative performance of the Microsoft stock versus the SPX. You see here with just a little bit of an additional effort, which means retrieving data for two names and adjusting the plotting command a little bit. I have now a plot for the 2 time series and the relative outperformance, in this case over time, of Microsoft versus SPX. Intraday data is something I'm getting asked kind of regularly. Here in a very simple example, I retrieve data for just 1 day, but for now 4 different symbols: Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. 1 minute time interval. And when I execute that, you see we now have 391 minute time intervals for the 30th of May. So this is from yesterday. And you see, indeed, this is minute bar data. The last observation was 8 p.m. 01. And I can, of course, plot such data as well here in a normalized fashion. So we see the intraday movement of the 4 stocks yesterday, so very current. I could also go about here, as I did it before in the other Jupyter Notebook, and calculate the log returns and plot them, for example, here as 4 different interactive histograms. So this is just a glimpse of what is possible technologically in terms of what data I can get and how I can visualize that, how nicely I can do that. So from pandas, pure pandas and open data sources to proprietary professional data sources and here interactive graphics. Kind of nice, and I guess for financial analytics and our trading purposes, really, really powerful. So this was that part. Now that we have seen how powerful the interactive visualizations are, I want to just provide you with a very quick glimpse at how to work with streaming data and visualization. To this end, I go back to my shell here, and I'm going to execute a tick server script So this runs and just spits out in a random fashion stock prices. But these stock prices are just simulated. Don't believe the numbers that you see. This is just a technical thing here. So I need another one here. And now I'm starting another script which now takes the data from the server, the tick server that I started before, the random data, and plots this data in real time. So this is kind of easily accomplished. You might say, well, I haven't seen the code. This must be lots of code in order to accomplish this, but I can assure you, I can even show you that when I open here tick server, you see this is just the server code. It's less than 20 lines of code to create my random numbers there, but creating random numbers isn't that involved. And when I open now the tick plot script, you see this is a little bit more involved. This has 38 lines of code, but with 38 lines of code, I'm able to in real time digest data, streaming data, and at the same time to plot that data. So 38 lines of code put you in a position to visualize your data in real time. This is also at the core of what we teach in the program, because to work with streaming data is a conditio sine qua non. Because when I now open my FX trade practice application here, this is the trading application of Wonder, you see maybe I change the I go to Germany 30. Of course, when you have a look at the markets, when you consider yourself maybe day trader, want to become an algorithmic trader, you see here that the market is moving in real time. So here we see only 5-second intervals. We don't see real time the tick data, but at least we see the 5-second intervals, and we see it moving over time and moving over time. So things are changing, data is updated, and so forth. And we need to be able to work with it. Now you might say, well, simple data, simple streaming, simple plot. This is of course not involved, but what about the real world? And I can assure you, the real world, once you know how to do it, and if you use the wrappers that we provide, isn't that more difficult. It's a little bit more involved, but frankly, and believe me, it's just a little bit, if you know how to go about it. And to provide you a couple of examples, here I'm showing you how to work programmatically with the Wonder API, with the new one, again based on a Jupyter Notebook. What I'm going to use here, and this is the major line, the most important one, is a wrapper that we have written ourselves. So you won't find it out there. You get exclusive access via our courses to this one. It's brand new. Even those who have signed up already haven't had access, but you will see what the benefits are. First, I connect to the platform. It's as simple as that. It's a single line of code. And then, for example, I can look up the instruments that are available there. Now I have decided for DE30 euro, and I want to get daily data. So again, a single line of code. It's not that more involved than with the open data sources. You see here, for what I've asked, I get back 358 rows of data. Have a look at the tail, and you see this works now exactly as it did before. And this is real-world data from the Wonder platform. From the data set here contains a couple of columns, 2 of which I'm plotting here, high and low. So you see the high values per time interval and the low values. But these are just daily observations. You can work with down to the level of 5 seconds. You can go with the Wonder API. Streaming is something I've emphasized a couple of times. You say, well, streaming, this seems to be involved. But here, with what we have written for you, it's just a single call. You see, I call stream data, the method on my object, providing the instrument, and an optional parameter stop, and I get now the tick data. Not only, again, here the 5-second bars, I get the tick data from Wonder, which I can use to formulate my algorithmic algorithmically induced trades. Placing orders, as straightforward as a single line of code. Here you see create order, the instrument, and the number of units. Again, so you see I'm not cheating. Here there is no trade active. Now when I go back to my Jupyter notebook and am executing this order here from Python, going back to my trading application, you see, well, there is now an active trade. It's a long position in the Germany 30, exactly here. You see the triangle. And you see that it's currently losing now its P&L is 0. And you see the real-time P&L illustrated and shown here. When I say, well, that's enough for me, we're going to close it. Another single line of code and a check here. You see the trade has vanished. Without me doing anything here on the FX Trade Practice app, I can programmatically, with a single line of code, place my orders, be it a buy or a sell order. The last two things that I want to illustrate here, it's only a few lines of code more, is the first algorithm, which is probably not that sensible, so please don't replicate it, but I was looking for something very simple to show you, and how to get account information. So here the algorithm is just a simple loop where I first create a buy order, then I wait for 7 seconds, and then I create a sell order and wait for another 7 seconds. This is just a time-based algorithm. Nobody says in an algorithmic definition that an algorithm must make money or must earn money. So here I've just executing a couple of buy and sell orders. When I execute this, I can let it run now in the background and can go to my trade practice application and can watch my algorithm trade. So you see now the position is closed, and after a few seconds, here we see, well, we are long again the market. And now we will be long for 7 more seconds until the algorithm, here we go, closes out the position. So indeed, it fulfills the definition of an algorithm. I don't say that it's kind of a successful algorithm, but at least you see that I'm able to programmatically trade here on render, and this programmatically algorithmic trading just takes a couple of lines of code. As simple as that, still amazing when I see it in action. Account information, the final part here. Wonder get account summary. You see here a simple method call, and I get kind of overview numbers, what is kind of the balance, when was the account created, and stuff like that. When I'm interested in the last couple of trades, here I need to adjust the numbers maybe from 800 on, and now have a look, and I can access here the complete history of my trades with P&L information, number of units, what kind of instrument, what kind of order type, and so forth. So I have full programmatic access, and in principle, I wouldn't need to use the FX Trade Practice in order to get started trading there. So this is as simple as it is. But again, this is all based, you won't find it on the web, not in the GitHub repository, nor on the Wonder page. This is all based on a little piece of software that we have written to wrap the Wonder API. This brings me back here to my overview slide, where we now have covered all the 7 red dots, which I wanted to show you. And we can now move on here in the slides. As a summary, you see here what we are covering in this program. So there are kind of 5,000 lines of code that you can use immediately in order to get started. You have 55 hours of pre-recorded video instruction, 40 Jupyter notebooks that you can use. We will do more than 25 hours of live sessions where you can raise questions, where we can go into details that we haven't covered in other areas, where we can talk about the most recent developments and updates and so forth. A total of I estimate 1,000+ pages are covered in this program. So 450 pages alone here. The Finance with Python has 150 pages. This book has 600 pages and quite a bit more. So it's a really comprehensive program. And again, with regard to the other question, we cover a lot, but still, even if we cover a lot, we cannot cover everything. But we try our best. And in particular, what we try is to provide you with a structured approach to the whole topic. So we teach you how to set up the infrastructure. We teach you how to work with financial data. We show you how to translate your strategies into code, how to backtest your strategies in both vectorized and event-based fashion. Then how to connect to the platforms in real time, how to write the trading code, and last but not least, how to accomplish the automation with real-time monitoring and so forth. So this is what we focus on, that you have this kind of technological guideline, which you can then fill with life in the form of your own strategies and the customizations that are important to what you want to accomplish. Why do I think everything is so exciting in our field, in particular in Python for algorithmic trading? And I want to point you to one topic which I'm really fascinated about these days. It's called singularity. There are many things that are related to singularity. Some, like the book here, say singularity rising, so they have it in the title. Others use a different expression like super intelligent here in the book by Nick Bostrom. And here a show that I really like, it's called Person of Interest. And in Person of Interest, there is the big machine running in the background, observing us all and knowing everything, so to say. And it's all based on kind of the ideas behind the singularity. But what is singularity? Here you see one definition out of James Miller's book, Singularity Rising. It says vast increases in biological and machine intelligences will create what's being called the singularity, a threshold of time, so one day in the future, at which AIs that are at least as smart as humans and or augmented human intelligence radically remake civilization. If you like TED Talks and want to have a 15-minute summary by one of the major thinkers, here is a link. So if you click on this picture in the PDF, you are directed to what happens when our computers get smarter than we are. I think it's the best talk available on the topic, and it impressively explains why I think this is such an important topic. Because there's not only the overall singularity, people are talking about the financial singularity as well. And here from Investopedia, you can read financial singularity is the point at which all investment decisions are made by intelligent machines rather than human agents. So some might argue there is not even a point in trying to master discretionary trading anymore, because machines will soon surpass every human being in this discipline. So when all human fallibility is eliminated from markets, efficient markets, which have only existed so far in theory, could become a reality. For those of you with a formal background in finance, you might heard of something like complete symmetric information, like these sentences that you read at the beginning of a formal model description, but with the singularity, which means with such a single machine who has all the data, we will have for the first time in history something where we can really talk about complete information. So we are on the way to that. Here also a link to a very nice article. It's brand new, I think last week, about the topic here. For decades, investors imagined a time when data-driven traders would dominate financial markets. That day has arrived. I think we are here in one of the most exciting fields active ever in the financial industry. Not least due to technological advances. So Google just, I think 2 weeks ago, published a new initiative, Google AI, where they, under a single umbrella, provide their artificial intelligence software as well as the new hardware, launching here cloud TPUs, tensor processing units, where they will provide a cloud specifically dedicated to speed up all the operations needed for deep learning. So fascinating, and I'm really looking forward and to be able to test this in the future. Yeah, the singularity, and if you want to translate it to our field, the financial singularity is what I think makes algorithmic trading in general and Python for algorithmic trading in particular so fascinating. Now you might ask yourself, what will be the style? I tried to at least a little bit mimic the style while showing you a couple of things at the same time. So what you can expect from the program is the following. Here are a couple of guidelines that I typically follow, and this slide I'm using these days for every kind of workshop that I'm giving. The first part here is about the tools. You need to choose the right tools, and people are always asking me, well, but I'm using this or that. You can use whatever tool you like, but I'm teaching a couple of tools that I think are good, and in the sense of going beyond your comfort zone, you might follow along and simply try something new as well. This will steepen your learning curve in any case. To write human readable code is, I think, one of the strengths of Python, and we try our best to put you on that path. But this is only possible. So when we now have a look at the third quote here, when you have the right data structures, pandas, numpy, and all the powerful packages, they provide us with the means to write human readable code. So the two go hand in hand. I wouldn't put code in front of data or the other way around. The two go hand in hand. If I have the right data structure, I can write nice code. If I write nice code, I have nice data structure. So they are closely intertwined. But last but not least, we are living in the age of dataism, as Yuval Noah Harari puts it in Homo Deus, in the sense that the universe consists of data flows, and the value of any phenomenon or entity is determined by its contribution to data processing. So algorithms and data, these are the two things, and be assured you will find these two things at the core of the program here as well. The interactive style is a major element. So when I coded a little bit about the financial stuff and this very simplistic example about the replication of an option, this is a style that I'm using these days absolutely regularly, and I think it makes for the best learning experience. In the sense of that when you follow along, you see immediately how it works, and I think the experience is 10 times better than when the plot shows up on your computer when you have coded it than me showing it and when the plot shows up on my computer. So you should be able to do it yourself. DIY. So this is what we are after. So you should be able to do it, and this is the benchmark. Everything else, what I do whatsoever, is not as important, of course, as what you will be able to do afterwards. In the meantime, there's a question with regard to lifelong learning. I said it before, so once you have paid for the material here, you will have lifetime access to the material. This does include kind of updates, improvements. People who have booked, let's say, PyAlgo a couple of weeks ago, and they have experienced already a couple of updates. What is not included might be something brand new that will come up in the future. So it's not kind of everything that we will ever come up with is included, but for what you have paid, you are included. I have also included here in this batch other students who have signed up for a different program. So we try to be as flexible as possible here with regard to what you have booked, and try to, I mentioned it before, with electronic material that we regularly update and keep up to date, which is, again, one of the major advantages of having electronic material over printed copies of books. In math and math finance, not that many things change that often, but in technology, we have shorter innovation cycles. Everything, another related question, is recorded, is put on the platform. So don't be afraid to miss a class. Everything, usually with just a few hours of delay due to processing, will be uploaded to the Kuan platform. Say we have a class at 2 now. I expect to put this online a few hours later, so there is a little bit of a delay, but you will have access to it anyways. Yeah, Python for Algo, we have three. There's now a question with regard to the three different, maybe I answered this in the context of the offer that I have formally. So bear with me for 2 more minutes. I'm just finishing up this part. Because this is now kind of closely related to the approach. So what we also try to implement is the skill-based training approach, which is actually directly related to my interactive approach. So we want you to do it. Just think of when you try to learn a music instrument, say the piano. You take piano lessons, and it's kind of nice to listen to your teacher, how well he can play the piano or she can play the piano. But what you're supposed to do is kind of to play along, to just mimic, to replicate, to study for yourself. And this is the major part. And this is what skill-based training is all about. You should do it. You should be able to do it. You should, in the end, be able to, even to answer your own question. So this is even one abstraction level higher, that we teach you how to ask the right questions and how to find the answers. Because later on, you cannot always ask somebody else. You need to be able to figure out things on your own. And this is what we try to teach you here as well. And purposeful practice has well-defined specific goals. It's the reason why we have this huge part which provides you with the experience. You should be able to implement programs that run for 1 week on their own. But of course, we will teach it based on baby steps to reach the longer term goal. We are focused on certain things. We don't cover everything. So it's focused. We could cover, let's say, 1,000 things more, but we try to focus on the most important ones that bring you furthest in this regard. Feedback, we have the Python interpreter, you have us as well, and the competitions where you can measure yourself. And what I think is here one of the most important aspects is that you go beyond your comfort zone. I know many people have their favorite editor, they have their here and there, but just get beyond your comfort zone and learn a little bit more than you might have expected before. And we hope that the structure allows you to maintain the motivation, in a sense, here of the definition of purposeful practice by Eric Anderson. Now the offer, and this gives me then the opportunity to comment a little bit on the certain things that we offer. The regular price for the certificate program, those who have signed up know it for sure. Others that joined us today might have questions in this regard, is some 2,500 euro. We have an offer currently running again until Friday, June. So this week, Friday, where we have a reduced rate. This is the last chance, so to say, for the reduced price. Others, many people have signed up for the early bird pricing. This has gone already since 2 weeks. And we have, if you're just interested in the static content with the code and all the stuff that we provide there, there is the entry offer that we have for a little bit less than 200 euro only. But this is just static content. There is no video instruction, no live instruction. There is no value benefits from interacting with us. It's just when somebody says, well, I'm a Python expert. I know everything about algorithmic trading. I just want to have the content to read through it, and I figure it out all on my own. So it's like, I usually explain it that this is the book written by a university professor, and what we offer here is kind of the exposure to the professor and the lectures themselves. So this is a difference of being in a master program in financial engineering, or just have a book on your shelf by somebody who is teaching at such a program. Then there's a question, we have something in the middle, and of course we have the algo trading class at the core, but here you have 30 hours of video and instruction content more on top of that, plus the live session. So you get much more than twice as much instruction when you're interested in this full program, plus the certification, plus the competitions, plus the created final project. So this is our full-fledged offering. And if you say, well, I'm not interested in the certificate program, I'm just interested in the live and in the recorded instructions and the material and so forth, then the flagship class might be the optimal thing. But if you want to have the full-fledged thing from A to Z, plus the live sessions, plus the 55 hours of recorded instruction, plus the certificate, plus the three competitions that we do, then here the program is the right thing for you. If there are any questions, of course, I can be reached by email and any other means you might be aware of, by Twitter, but email probably is the best. If you are decided, here is the link to that. I'm just going through the questions there. I think I have answered most of them. If not, you can always get in touch personally, of course. Let me just quickly have this brief wrap up here. Couple of questions in this regard. Yes. Yeah, the video recordings, if you are subscribed to our classes, you get access on the Kuan platform. Beyond that, you will just get access to what we have done here today. So this is everything beyond that point is just for people who have signed up. Beyond that, you need to have an account with the respective access rights to access the videos. There is a Bloomberg as a data source, so Bloomberg is, I think, quickly catching up with regard to Python. They are not as far as Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters is one of our partners, so I cannot really comment on that. I'm not in the position. Maybe I know a couple of people. They are really active in with regard to Jupyter Notebook development, for example. But the Python API, at least what people say, is not there what people would like to have it. So they are doing something, but again, I'm not really the one who is able to comment on that specifically. So when is the next course? So this class, this starts next week. So we are this is the kickoff for this course program. It goes over 3 months. So still time to jump right onto it. Of course, if you're interested, just get in touch. The time effort every day. So I wouldn't count it every day. I would say that with close to 10 hours per week, you should be well off. I think this is manageable with regard to the live sessions and what you might want to do for your on your own. Some people might, let's put it that way, might do 12, others only 8 because they have different background. But I haven't heard of anybody who needed to do 20 hours per week in order to follow along. So 10 hours per week is kind of a lot, but of course you are free to explore any direction that you're interested in. There's another question with regard to payment in installments. Yeah, when certain requirements are fulfilled, you can pay in installment as well. Just get in touch and we can work out something if this is applicable. How is this course correlated with the CFA? Yeah, I just recently heard that they will include machine learning stuff to the CFA as well. But again, I'm not an expert. I'm not aware of the details of the CFA curriculum. I would assume that what we do is technologically much more advanced that you see in the CFA. And also on the finance side, we are covering more the quant finance stuff, not that much the accounting world. In that sense, I wouldn't see that much of correlation. It's more, from my point of view, a specialization. So if you have CFA, for example, you can specialize via our program very efficiently in the areas of Python and algorithmic trading. Yeah, I think these were the questions that I went through. We are a little bit over time, but I'm at the last slide here, which says the following, and I'm standing completely behind every sentence I've written down here. Be part of the most exciting developments in finance ever. I think we are really kind of at the crossroads where finance we go in the future with all the technological developments behind it. We have experienced it already over the last couple of years, but I think development will be accelerated and yeah, the advancements will take on exponential shape. here. Earn your certificate in Python for algorithmic trading. Beyond what we cover with regard to context, you have here a prestigious certificate which distinguishes you in the market. Be it to build your own algorithmic trading business, this is one route that many of our students are following, or to land your dream job in the industry. So just read around, look around. With the skills that we teach, you have the best chances in the industry to land your dream job, because algorithmic trading is kind of on the rise. Just follow the links that I've provided, as well as Python is used these days by the most successful big banks, asset managers, hedge funds, insurance companies, and so forth. It is a key skill, and not having the Python skill is a major disadvantage. In any case, whatever you decide for, whatever offer from us or from others, I wish you the best with Python in the algorithmic trading space, and I wished you would shape the future of finance with us based on what we do together in the program. If you have questions, please follow up by email best, and I get back as soon as possible. And in the meantime, I wish everybody who is not yet decided a good thought about it. I'm looking forward to work with all the others who have signed up already intensively over the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited about it. I've included that many new things into the curriculum that I'm overexcited about it. I'm just trying to manage if we can get everything on the schedule. And once again, happy Python coding. Thanks for your attention. Have a good time, and I hope to see you in the program and to work with you in the future. Bye-bye.